That's it. Ajá.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us this afternoon for our regular school board meeting. Just a reminder to our public audience that are here present, if you'd like to address the board in open forum, there are some yellow forms out in our little circular table that you're welcome to fill out, and then please make sure you turn them in to Ms. Delgado, who's seated over here, okay? And so, once again, thank you for joining us this evening. I now call to order our Gadsden Independent School District regular school board meeting for Thursday, March 9th, 2023 at 5:03 p.m. Ms. Delgado, can you please take roll call?
Mr. Cano? Mr. Castillo?
Present.
Ms. Flores?
Present.
Ms. Murillo?
Present.
Ms. Rodriguez?
Present.
Madam President, we have established quorum.
Thank you, Ms. Delgado. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Ms. Murillo, can you please read our mission statement?
The Gadsden Independent School District will provide diverse educational opportunities that empower students to be successful in an ever-changing world. El Distrito Escolar Independiente de Gadsden brindará diversas oportunidades educativas que capacitarán a los estudiantes para tener éxito en un mundo cambiante.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, moving on to our next agenda item, which is item 3, consideration and possible action for board reorganization. And so, in accordance with the board policy BDA, our board reorganizes its officers every 2 years. So 2 years have passed by, and so tonight we will be reorganizing our board. And so with that being said, I am going to go ahead and open the floor to accept nominations for the office of president.
I would like to nominate Laura to continue as president.
Okay, our Secretary Rodriguez has made a nomination for myself to continue as president. Are there any other nominations for the office of president? Okay. I will now close the floor for nominations. We have as our nominees for the office of president the following: myself, Laura Salazar Flores. We are now going to vote for the office of president. Per policy BDA, we will do this by roll call vote. When your name is called, please name the nominee whom you wish to receive your vote, or in this case, you could say aye or nay. If you are among the nominees, you may vote for yourself. And I have asked our Secretary Rodriguez to proceed with roll call.
Arlene Murillo,
Yes.
Daniel Castillo,
Aye.
Laura Flores,
So thank you for the nomination, and yes, I would like to continue. Thank you so much.
and I am an aye. So it is a vote of four, and unanimous, Mr. Armando Cano not being present.
Okay. Thank you very much for this opportunity. Thank you so much. And I will continue doing my best, and thank you so much. Moving on to, we're going to go ahead and, I am going to go ahead and open the floor to accept nominations for the office of vice president. Okay, so are there any other, so I open the floor for, I open the floor to accept nominations for the office of vice president. I
Madam
apologize.
President, I'd like to nominate Ms. Rodriguez as Vice President.
Okay, Mr. Castillo has made a nomination to nominate Ms. Claudia Rodriguez for vice president. Are there any other nominations for the office of vice president? Okay. I will now close the floor for nominations. Okay, so we have as nominees for the office of vice president, Ms. Claudia Rodriguez. So we are now going to vote for the office of vice president. Per policy BDA, we will do this by roll call vote. When your name is called, please name the nominee who you wish to receive your vote. If you are among the nominees, you may vote for yourself. And in this case, since there's only one nominee, you can also vote yay or nay. Ms. Rodriguez?
Ms. Arlene Murillo,
Yay.
Mr. Daniel Castillo,
Aye.
Ms. Laura Flores,
Aye.
and I will gladly accept.
Congratulations. Okay, moving on to the office of secretary. So I will now open the floor to accept nominations for the office of secretary. Are there any nominations for office of secretary?
Madam President, I'd like to nominate Ms. Murillo.
Mr. Castillo has nominated Arlene Murillo for secretary. Are there any other nominations for the office of secretary? Okay. I will now close the floor for nominations. We have as our nominee for the office of secretary, Ms. Arlene Murillo. We are now going to vote for the office of secretary. Per policy BDA, we will do this by roll call vote. When your name is called, please name the nominee you wish to receive your vote. If you are among the nominees, you may vote for yourself. Ms. Rodriguez, please take roll call.
Mr. Daniel Castillo,
Aye.
Ms. Laura Flores,
Aye.
I am an aye, and Ms. Arlene Murillo.
I accept that nomination. Thank you. Aye.
So the vote is unanimous. Congratulations, Ms. Murillo.
Can we switch now?
Oh, yeah, I suppose. Where's the music for musical chairs, huh? Okay. Okay, so moving on to our item 4 on our agenda is Superintendent Dempsey's district updates and recognitions. Superintendent Dempsey.
Madam President, board members, thank you for joining us this evening. We have several items on the agenda, so we'll get started. Our first item, we want to celebrate Berino Elementary, which is really being described as our model school for capturing kids' hearts. And so I really appreciate the staff and administration there that has really invested and bought into this capturing kids' hearts. And I believe we have a video that we'll get to view. With no sound. It's the darn HDMI cable. How do I get rid of the HDMI? See HDMI. I think you can ignore it and just hit maximize screen.
She scored 5 baskets.
To share Google Speak. Play that second.
Woo, she got a new dress.
I believe that giving my students a voice in my classroom empowers them to feel confident and safe to ask questions and make mistakes. I am a kindergarten teacher. I teach dual language at Berino Elementary with Gadsden Independent School District. The factor that leads to no disciplinary referrals in my classroom is the fidelity to capturing kids' hearts and growth mindset. Teaching my students to be mindful of themselves and others has helped us tremendously. Students have learned to build each other up instead of putting each other down, and they are genuinely happy for each other's accomplishments. The difference in this year's students versus other year students is that they are confident in themselves and they hold each other accountable based on their social contract, which they developed on their own. They express their feelings to each other, which means they check each other. Previous years, students did not develop that self-confidence to express feelings with one another and expected me to handle situations that they could handle. One main factor that I have seen is the difference in myself and how I go about certain issues in my classroom. I now have let go of the fixed mindset and have made the transition to a growth mindset, meaning that a lot of the interactions now in my classroom are, instead of being teacher-led, they're student-led. So we hear a lot of my students talking versus myself. What changed from last year to this year is just being open-minded. You know, being able to allow my kids to take control. A lot of the times I'm very structured and I was very controlling. So now it's just free. You guys are able to make mistakes, ask questions, hold each other accountable. That mindset from years before has totally changed me. The fixed mindset to growth mindset.
Handsome. You are handsome.
I'm smart.
You are smart.
I'm beautiful.
You are beautiful.
handsome.
You are handsome.
I am strong.
You are strong.
I'm a winner.
You are a winner.
I'm smart.
You are smart.
Everything's gonna be.
Today is gonna
Hello, my name is Rosa Carnavali, and I am the principal at Berino Elementary for Gadsden Independent School District here in New Mexico. We have taken capturing kids' heart to heart. Every person in the school has incorporated what we call the 4 questions. For example, they are, what are you doing? What are you supposed to be doing? Are you doing it? What are you doing about it? This has allowed us to be unified, whether we're in the classroom, in the cafeteria, or outside. Students are aware that we are holding them accountable, but also offering them the opportunity to be reflective on their actions. Absolutely. The staff, for the most part, has really taken on the Excel model from the Capturing Kids' Hearts. They accept their duties and their challenges with a smile and seek to do what is best for everyone. We have even started a campus-wide book study on the growth mindset. I do believe that we wouldn't have had this success without Capturing Kids' Hearts. Me, myself, I am learning to be more intentional with my actions. For example, making sure I greet everyone, listen and ask questions on staff well-being, even outside of what we do day to day here. Based on the data that we have accumulated, we are having less and less students outside of the classroom. For example, in detention, we are able to redirect them through the process, and teachers are reporting that students are returning more aware of their behaviors and accepting the responsibility and going back to work.
Hey, good morning, how are you? Are you ready for another day? And then I tell them it ain't no thing but a chicken wing. Good morning, my name is Saul Chavez, and I'm the head custodian here in Merino Elementary. I think it's very necessary to greet the kids. You just want to put a smile in their face, you know. Sometimes you never know. They're coming sad, angry, sleepy. You never know. So, you know, sometimes it's just very good just to say, good morning, how are you doing? And, you know, that's what makes me feel good.
When it comes to citing sources, details matter. Introducing Grammarly's citation.
All right. Thank you so much. If you have an opportunity to visit Merino Elementary, ask them about Capturing Kids' Hearts. And again, I can't emphasize how much I appreciate the staff really engaging in it. And I think something was said in the video that is important. Capturing Kids' Hearts is about changing the adults in the system to meet the kids' needs, not about changing the kids in the system. So, pretty powerful program, and I want to thank Ms. Villalobos for being a huge part of that, because she funds that and helps ensure it's implemented. Okay. Next item I have, 2 of our board members recently, this is board member recognition. 2 of our board members were recently recognized by the Doña Ana Arts Council and the Southern New Mexico Women's Suffrage Alliance in celebration of International Women's Day. So I'd like to congratulate Ms. Morillo and Ms. Rodriguez for being recognized, and thank you for your service to Gadsden ISD. Thank you. Item 4C is our legislative update. If you're followed along at all or have any time to catch an update, this is the home stretch, and there is a lot going on. You'll see meetings lasting all the way up till midnight, 2 in the morning. Weekends, some committees already started working on weekends. I've been doing a little bit of work on weekends as well with some of them to try to give them a perspective of a superintendent. So what I've tried to do is capture what I think are the most critical aspects for us to understand. I'm definitely always open to any questions you might have about legislative things. Operational budget, currently that budget is, and keep in mind it's always wrapped into House Bill 2, that's called the General Appropriations Act. It's right now at Senate Finance, where some big changes seem to be being made, and those big changes really involve the removal of specific language, and there's a little bit of a tug-of-war between LFC and LESC. And LESC, I think what's happened is we've had a change in leadership, and they believe policy should come through them, not through the budget bill, and I'm going to probably agree with that. And so that's where some of that is happening. What's interesting is not a lot of the actual budget is changing, but a lot of language that was typically in it the last 8 or 10 years is being removed. So we'll see how that shakes out. Again, you can pass all the bills you want, but at the end of the day, what's funded, what's allocated? So that's the thing to watch, right? Transportation is really important to us. We currently are, our transportation budget is in the red, meaning we have to, the amount we receive from Santa Fe does not cover the amount of and I'm talking route buses, does not cover the contract for that. we have to dip into operational to cover it. We're not the only district. Las Cruces, Rio Rancho, many other districts are in that boat. Mostly larger districts are in that boat. Currently in House Bill 2, the current funds that have been allocated will not likely be adequate to cover transportation expenses again. And so we are at a really good time, in my opinion, to remind our legislators that that is a space in which those are dollars taken out of our classroom. And so we would like them to hold us harmless in a year that the state has more money than they've ever had historically. I think this is a very easy year to do that. I don't think we're not asking a lot. And every school district that's in the red will gladly join you in that conversation. Graduation requirements, there's a bill a proposal to change some graduation requirements. That particular legislation is moving very quickly and actually could clear both houses and be on the governor's desk before the session ends. So likely that will happen. The board will have to then, it's not immediate, but we're going to have to look at what the board would like to see happen because there's some choices in there you'll have to make. Okay? Hour requirement, this one is we've talked about the 1,140 hours required. There's not a big change for Gadsden because years ago we did an we participated in an extended learning time program. Our high schools actually all go over that right now, and we'll have to probably adjust a little bit. We want to make sure our breakfast after the bell at elementaries and maybe a couple minutes, give or take, on some of our schedules, but really we would pretty easily meet the requirement. The conversation and a decision has yet to be made. Will the statute allow for 60 hours of professional development to be embedded in that 1140, or will it be outside that 1140? And that boxing match will occur in the next 10 days. We'll be watching for that. Medical benefits bill, I think if you remember this initially, it was called the 80-20 bill. It's had some significant amendments to it. It now has what I would consider a tiered process that is divided up by salary brackets. So the more money you make, the less of a percent the district would pay. And there's still time for this bill to move, but it's going to need some additional attention. I do have some concerns about the funding that's been allocated for it. If I deciphered it correctly today, I think there's about $50 million in it. The estimates are $110 million to cover the cost of this. And so somebody's going to have to carve out some more dollars to make this happen, or it becomes an unfunded mandate on districts' back to do. So want to be careful of that bill. I very much support the bill. I think it is a incredible idea. I'd like to, if it doesn't pass, I'd like us to try to consider how we could start working towards something like that for our employees. I think it's a good way to go. But I don't necessarily want to be forced to do that right now and tap into operational dollars to do it. So just watch for that, and I'll keep you posted. You should have received some emails from Mr. Guillen from the New Mexico School Boards Association, because it looks like there's some proposals that would change some of board member requirements and reporting for elections, training requirements, some increases that I would question. I think Mr. Guillen in his email made it very clear that he questions. So just be aware that one's got some energy on it, and you might want to consider reaching out to legislators to make sure that they know how you feel about that. And then the real big one that is gained a tremendous amount of energy is Senate Joint Resolution 1. This is a resolution that would eliminate the Secretary of Education position and return back to a state school board and state superintendent. And it has literally flown through the Senate with, I think, 2 dissenting votes, and is on the House side. And in committee this week, I think there were 3 total dissenting votes. So it has a tremendous amount of energy. And keep in mind, this one's unique. It's not the type. It's different because it does not require the governor's signature. This would they're approving something to be on a ballot for voters to decide. And so keep that in mind, that it is seems to have a tremendous amount of energy and seems to be moving, so something to watch for. Okay? I think that covers my legislative update. I would encourage you, if you hear of legislation that you would like me to check into, I would be more than happy to do so. And I've actually, like I mentioned, been able to spend significant time with different legislators, committee chairs, Senator Souls and Representative Romero and I have got to spend quite a bit of time talking about transportation and compensation. There's one bill that, I'm sorry, remiss, I should have put that in, I mentioned this, is in House Bill 2. Right now, it looks like somewhere between a 5 or a 6% increase, salary increase for all public school employees. Averaging language is currently in there. Now, what averaging means is, as a local board, you can decide, that doesn't mean everybody gets a 6%. You can adjust that if we chose to. This governor has lined item that language out almost every time. So keep in mind that even if they keep it in, that has to be signed by the governor, and she doesn't seem to like averaging language, which if she takes averaging language out, it's a straight across for everybody. So just keep those things in mind as we're pushing towards the finish line here. Okay. Next item I have is an update on our consolidation of Sunland Park Elementary. In front of you on the board, you should have some information there. We presented with staff. We've talked to the staff about their assignments and given them a process in which they could request an assignment. Students have been assigned based on their physical address. So where they live, they've been assigned to a particular school, either Riverside or Desert View. A map of attendance zones was provided for the staff and community for Desert View and Riverside. Individual student assignments were provided to parents at a community meeting. And again, staff are prioritized for new vacancies. So if a staff member currently is assigned to a school that's been approved for a consolidation, they have what's now evolved to be known as the golden ticket. And that golden ticket's a very powerful tool, because if they see a position they want, they contact HR, they don't have to interview, if they're qualified, they get reassigned to that position for the next school year. So next slide is a similar consolidation for Mesquite Elementary. And we have done something very similar, presented with staff their assignments and talked about the request process. We've assigned students based on their physical address. A map of attendance zones was provided to staff and parents. Individual student assignments were provided. Assessing student need to determine the number of SPED units. So we are working with some very specific SPED units. There is a SEC, which is a SPED unit currently at Mesquite. That unit in its entirety is scheduled to be moved to Vado Elementary. So we're definitely working through that. Some of the questions I've received this week have to do with boxes. Our teachers are wanting to start, be prepared to box their items up. I've encouraged them to use this time to go through material. We've seen a lot of elementary classrooms. I've seen a lot of elementary classrooms in my time, and my joke to them a little bit is I don't want to see any Saxon math books, which, if you're not familiar, Saxon was a very popular math program back in the 80s and 90s. We don't want to see those. It's a little bit dated. Actually, I'm joking. It's very dated, and we don't want to be moving those items. We want to probably discard those items and move the new stuff. There is room for pre-K and kinder. We've got to, we're limiting the amount of boxes we're giving everyone, but pre-K and kinder, I've got to be careful with that because they have a lot of stuff that goes with those classrooms. So, and we have identified a funding source, and we're going to use a moving company. The hope is a staff member will box their things up, mark them, and then they will be moved to their new location. They leave in May with their stuff boxed up. They come back in August or July and into their new classroom, and there's their items for them.
I have a question. How many students were we able to recruit from Sunland Park Elementary to join dual language at Riverside?
I believe it was, Dr. Terrazona, can you help me? Was it 3? It was 3. 3 students.
Bueno, mejor tres que nada. Okay, thank you. Okay. Okay, thank you,
Okay.
sir.
All right. That covers our consolidation. The next item I have, and this has been an interesting school year. The last couple of years, we all know that we've been, graciously provided federal dollars, and these are known as ESSER and ARP dollars. And we want to make sure you're clear on what we've utilized those dollars for. They've been large amounts. Now, I also want to emphasize we've tried to select projects that are one-time projects because these are non-recurring dollars. Somewhere they're all going to end. And we definitely don't want to ever tie those to salaries or anything of that nature. So we have a list there for the 21-22 school year. We utilized dollars for Jumpstart, so basically our summer program. We've relocated 10 SPED portables across the district. HVAC systems were updated. We offered additional SPED services for our students. Bilingual PD, Claves and Glad. Panorama was purchased. SRAB, which is a consulting company to help us. Capturing Kids' Hearts, we mentioned that. That's district-wide. Sensors that have been across, I believe these might be the sensors for Gadsden High School and the vaping sensors. And then, of course, with ESSER dollars, that all began as cleaning supplies and materials for our physical plant to help keep up with the disinfecting that we were required to do. For the 22-23 school year, we're working on a project to put Wi-Fi on buses, so all of our buses, students with their Chromebooks could easily access internet on their Chromebook and hopefully do some homework on their way home. Audio enhancers for Chaparral High School and Gadsden High School, that's been approved. That program is in those classrooms are equipped with those devices at Santa Teresa High School and Anthony right now. Sensors, these are vaping sensors for Gadsden High School and Santa Teresa and elementaries. And then our Marzano training, which we've talked extensively about, and that continuous improvement framework that we're utilizing across the district, okay? Next slide, please. ARP, this is a different funding stream. It's still federal. This was a pretty significant amount in that. Broadband project that has already been awarded, that bid has been awarded, and we are well on our way to getting that started. And I think in the next few months we'll be able to start seeing the results of that. Capturing Kids' Hearts is an extension. Marzano and SRAB, we continued those. SPED again. Some bilingual opportunities, training opportunities, which are some conferences that our bilingual teachers were able to attend, and then some TESOL endorsements. We've expanded Power School, offered tutoring across the district to every child in Gadsden ISD. Some additional portable movements that we were able to create, what we're going to utilize as family centers. And then items for that were our parent classes with books and trainings. Vector training, that's for our HR department. Finance has a management system. We got a couple greenhouses there for DPA and Gadsden High School. I'm typically calling them cadaver tables, and you're going to get a demonstration at our March 23rd board meeting at Desert Pride Academy. These are tools that typically students are exposed to, and when they're maybe higher ed, but more than likely first or second year nursing or medical school, and our high school students are going to are already having exposure to it. It's pretty exciting there. Overtime expenses, which anytime we're dealing with cleaning and those type of pieces, we always can use that. I also mentioned that as we've had purchases, more and more our warehouse, if you see our warehouse employees, thank them, because they are processing more than ever, because the more money we have, right, the more items we purchase, which really puts them at a disadvantage sometimes. Homeless families, I'll just mention that right now we are helping families that qualify under homeless. And Ms. Villalobos, I don't know if you have a number for me. I know you're helping with translation. So we currently have 210 families that fall under that. We've never seen that size of number. And so, as I mentioned earlier. Perfect. Thank you, Ms. Villalobos. As I mentioned earlier, these dollars end. And that's, you know, that's a lot to ask families to manage, because this is not something we typically have ever been able to do. So just keep that in mind. We purchased some items for S&P, and obviously always our physical plant's doing a great job of making sure that if we ever deal with a pandemic or anything of that nature, we have the supplies to do so. There's a link there that will give you very detailed information. You're happy to click on that, and if you have questions, we'd be happy to answer them. Next slide, please. I believe our next item, these are air projects, okay? So a little different stream. This came from our state government, and these were allocated to specific schools. At the bottom, you'll see a hyperlink to a guidance. It says that document will give you an idea of what we were told and the guidance we were provided. This has a lot to do with student opportunities. And what you're going to see on here is opportunities for our Navy Junior ROTC program to travel to Washington, D.C. Our culinary arts program to Orlando, Florida. Band competition to Anaheim, California. Juniors and seniors going on college trips and college campuses to New York. Gifted and SPED to New York. Sophomore class to Washington. And these are upcoming opportunities for them. So we're working on these. And this just gives you an idea of what we've planned for them and the opportunities they get to receive through these funds. So I do believe there's a chance these funds might be available again this coming year, and we've learned a lot about student travel. But, you know, sometimes we get a little pushback on student travel, and I truly would believe that our students need these type of experiences because we take for granted some of the things we get to do with our families, and sometimes our kids don't get necessarily that experience. So very exciting there. Next slide, please. I think this last slide is going to give you some ideas, some very specific items. These are supplies and materials and equipment, and just some examples of some of our CTE programs, augmented reality welding system. Welding programs, you're not aware, very expensive to maintain. This is a way to practice before you're actually getting into those expenses. And we have some plasma cutters and then a laser printer as well for those programs. And so I think that covers all our ESSER and ARP funded projects. And I'll, you know, like I said, we're always open to any questions you might have about those, and we'll try to do our best to answer those, okay? Our next item is our student representative, and this is Vanessa Martinez, who is a senior at Alta Vista Early College High School. Welcome. Yeah. There you go. Turn screen. Yeah. Now you're good.
Good evening, Madam Board President Flores, school board members, Superintendent Dempsey, and guests. My name is Vanessa Martinez, and I'm a senior at Alta Vista Early College High School, and it is my pleasure to report the latest achievements from my school. First of all, we are excited to announce that we have accepted 57 students for our freshman class for the 2023-2024 school year, 14 from Gadsden Middle School, 16 from Santa Teresa Middle School, and 29 from Chaparral Middle School. The online application process is still open through the end of May. We have 14 students who have made it to Nationals for Business Professionals of America. They will be traveling to Anaheim, California on April 26th. We have students competing in broadcast news production, digital media production, video production, extemporaneous speech, financial math and literacy, graphic design, visual design, podcast, and interview skills. 5 media students won first place in round 3 of the NMSU Arrowhead Center InnoVenture Challenge. They will compete for the championship on March 30th. 4 media students won 4th place in the Daniels Fund Ethics Initiative National Competition. They will receive $1,000 and be recognized at the National BPA Leadership Conference in Anaheim in April. 2 10th grade students won 1st and 2nd place in the Create New Mexico Winter Break Challenge. Andres Espinosa won 1st place and received a laptop. Caitlin Bass won 2nd place and received a hoodie. We have 2 finalists for the PBS Student Reporting Lab's My Education, My Future Challenge, Abigail Flores and Deanna Nunez. Yesterday, we had a presentation from a former student from the 2018 graduating class, Cadet Chance Franco. He will be graduating from West Point in May with a double major in science and sociology. He will be stationed in Fort Bliss upon graduation in the Air Defense Artillery. His goal is to do mentorship within the Gadsden Independent School District, and during his presentation, he shared his experience going to college out of state and how he built his portfolio. Another former student from the 2018 graduating class, Julie Hinojos, is a new social worker in the Gadsden Independent School District. She is shared between Alta Vista and Desert Pride Academy. The 10th grade biology class will be going to Carlsbad Caverns tomorrow as a part of their class experience. The 9th grade physics class will be going to New Mexico State University for a physics fun day on March 24th. Our chess club will be participating in the Crusader Library Chess Tournament Series at Judge Marcus Branch Library in El Paso, Texas on March 25th. In closing, it has been my pleasure to have shared about my school, Alta Vista Early College High School, and as always, we thank the school board, our superintendent, and the Gadsden community for your continued support. As a senior of Alta Vista Early College High School, I want to express my gratitude and appreciation for this excellent opportunity as I continue my journey to higher education in pursuit of a degree in the psychology field. I have gained self-discipline through taking college courses as a high school student, and now I am more prepared to continue my education. Thank you once again for your continued support.
Okay, Madam President, we are on to board member report. Mr. Castillo, will you help us get started this evening?
Thank you, sir. First of all, I'd like to congratulate Ms. Murillo and Ms. Rodriguez on their achievement. It's good to see, again, highlighting our district, and thank you very much for doing that and for your accomplishments. Congratulations. Ms. Martinez, thank you for your report there. Nothing but highlights, great, but every once in a while tell your people to give us something to work. We got a brand new board that wants to work. Look at them. That's why they're there, so just make sure. Other than that, I've been real busy at work, so that does it for my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Castillo. Mr. Cano?
I'd like to, again, just like Danny said, congratulate you ladies for being up so hot and ladies of the year. You'll always be my ladies of the year. I also want to congratulate Santa Teresa Middle School. They went through a bank tournament contest this year, and it's the first time that I've been to a contest since I was way back in high school. They were all nervous. They all played wonderful. I'm hoping to see good ratings. They didn't have the ratings up by the time I left. That was the reason for my tardiness today. But they played awesome, and I think Santa Teresa High School is going to be playing a little bit later. And I think I don't know if Chaparral is going to be up there or not, or Gadsden. But I know that they're getting ready to start. They were going to start at back up at 5:15. So. Congratulations to them. Ms. Martinez, great job. I know it's nervous being up here, and then kind of like, we all go through it, and that's all I got for me tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Cano. Ms. Rodriguez?
It's a little bit different now that I'm third to be able to give my report. First of all, thank you for your report, Ms. Martinez. I think that it's always great to hear the great accomplishments and great things that are happening within our campuses, so thank you for that, and welcome here. Second is I'm very excited about the AIR funding, which is, AIR stands for At-Risk Intervention Response funding. So I'm very excited to see that list. I do have a few questions later on, how that came about and all. But it's neat to be able to see that our students are going to have those experiences. Just Washington, D.C. and New York. Those places are just going there and seeing all the history. I think that they're going to bring back a whole lot. So I'm excited that the state is providing that funding. So the other thing is that I attended the ROTC inspection at Gadsden High School. It is something that's extremely phenomenal. The students are just looking so sharp. They show the pride that they have for what they're doing, being part of this group, the ROTC, and I think that it creates a lot of discipline. I had a conversation with my brother, the oldest one, and he was part of the ROTC, and so I think it brought a lot of memories when he saw that. And one of the things he mentioned is that, you know, the discipline that he learned there really helped him throughout his life, and I think that that's what it's creating. And so I had a conversation, actually, Ms. Lagarreta, Mr. Dempsey, and I had the privilege of sitting with one of the students. Actually, she went to our table, so that was pretty neat. And just hearing them speak, it's you know, you can see that they're growing and seeing how they're motivated. So it's amazing, and yes, we definitely need to hear all the positives, and like Mr. Castillo said, we also need the negatives because we need to work on that, right? And that's what we're here for. We're here to serve. And so we had a very good voice there at our table, and so we heard many things, and you know, we're excited to be able to provide something for them. And well, lastly, it's time to recharge, right? One more day, and there's going to be a break. So use that, everyone, as staff and the students. You know, it's a time to just relax and get ready to come back with a lot of energy. And so enjoy. Please take care of yourselves, and more than anything, well, definitely have fun. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Ms. Rodriguez. Ms. Murillo?
Good evening, everybody. Thank you, Ms. Martinez, for being here. One thing, yesterday, when me and my fellow board member, Ms. Rodriguez, we went to we were part of a panel about women power, right? It was a Women's International Day, and one thing that I always say is it's so nice to see you guys using your voice, right? And especially at a young age, and so don't stop. It brings you great memories and opportunities, and so yes, like Mr. Castillo said, right, it's amazing hearing the highlights, but also and in order for us to be able to support you and help you in your school, it's also listening to the challenges. Happy birthday to Board President Laura. She had a birthday a couple of days ago. Good luck to GISD schools bands who went for the competition in Las Cruces. I actually saw Ms. Flores and Mr. Cano at the band concert. It was a GISD band concert, and we had Santa Teresa High School, the middle school, Chaparral Middle, and Gadsden Middle. And I have been attending band competitions for years, and I can say that this year I've seen a big improvement and taking a different route when it comes to the whole band in fine arts as a whole. So I want to publicly thank Mr. Beach, because I think he has a lot to do with that change in a positive way. Also, I'm very excited to see Western New Mexico University, because that is my university, partnering with Gadsden, and they're having the opportunity for teachers to earn the bilingual endorsement, and that is really nice to see. I know, most of you guys have the NMSU background and degree, but seeing someone from Silver City and seeing the logo, and go Mustangs. So thank you, Ms. Tarazona, for helping us out with that, and hopefully this is one of many more opportunities of collaborating with not just one, but different universities from the state. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Ms. Murillo. President Flores?
Thank you, sir. So I'd like to start off by wishing the best performances for our bands at, I think they're at Oregon Mountain High School. And so good luck to all our bands. And then I'd also like to thank Mr. Beach and Principal Suggs for hosting that pre-MPA performance at Santa Teresa High School. It was beautiful. And hopefully under the direction of Mr. Beach, we can see more collaboration between our middle school and high schools, because that's the key. In order to sustain and build our band programs, they have to work as a team and support one another, and so hopefully, we can do that under his leadership. Let's see, also congratulations, I had the opportunity after, I drove quickly over and was able to capture a little bit of Ms. Murillo speaking at the event last night, and so I am so happy, and there I was your personal paparazzi, and I'll share the videos later. But I was so proud to see our two ladies representing Gadsden. It was a beautiful event, and well-deserved ladies. Love you guys. Let's see. And then about 2 weeks ago, I know we, Ms. Lugo and all the PLFs, which are the National Board Certified Teachers, Professional Learning Facilitators, a while back, we did recognize our National Board Certified Teachers who attained for the first time. But about 2 weeks ago, the New Mexico Network actually had a penning ceremony for those who were able to attend. And so I did make it out there myself, and it was good to see representation out there. Jeanette Gomez Duran from Early Childhood was there to receive her pin, and Amanda Flores, I was able to see them. And also Nereida Antuñez Gamon, who works here at the GAC, was out there, so it was a beautiful thing to see. And I would encourage, they mentioned that New Mexico actually has more, I don't have the numbers here in front of me, but New Mexico has more National Board Certified Teachers than even Texas, so that's awesome. So I want to challenge our district because that neighboring school district up north has more than Gadsden, so vamos a, let's beat them, so that we have more National Board Certified Teachers. And it's a beautiful thing because you do learn a lot. It's not easy. So there's current candidates that are going through the process. They're going to be turning, I think, their paper or their stuff May 17th. There's going to be moments where you want to quit. It's okay to think you want to quit, just don't do it. Okay, so just keep going, and you've got the support of your PLFs. So continue adelante. I also want to take the time to congratulate Anthony Palomares. He is now, I'm not sure what assistant coach he is, but he's going to be helping Mr. Dino Facio at Gadsden High School as an assistant coach. As a what? Ninth grade coach. Awesome. And so I'm happy because I'm a fellow Panther. At the same time, I'm sad because he's leaving Chaparral Middle School, but I appreciate all the work he did. My own son played under him. He's a phenomenal coach, so cuídalo. And maybe one day he'll come back. But moving on, I would also like to congratulate. We do have a new head coach at Chaparral High School. I look forward to meeting the gentleman. All I know about him is his name is Joseph Rios, so congratulations to you, sir. And you have the support of the parents out there. We have to work together so that we can build our program, so that we can also be, I was telling Coach Facio, make it to state or be district champs, because we can do it too. Let's see, and then I wanted to, that was an awesome video of capturing hearts, and I'm proud to say that Victoria Lopez is a fellow Panther class of 1994. I graduated with her. She played band with me at Gadsden Junior High, and so that's awesome to see a fellow Gadsden graduate, working for us and doing that awesome work. But I also wanted to, I didn't write the gentleman's name, but it's awesome to see too that Saul Chavez Sanchez, not sure, that he's also being highlighted as a custodian, because every single person on our campuses is crucial to the success of our students. So thank you for doing that, and thank you, Ms. Carnavale, for your support as an administrator. I think that concludes my report for this evening. Thank you. Okay, moving on to item 5 on the agenda is the Human Resource Report. That is there for the public to view. No action is required on behalf of the board. And then moving on to item 6, do I hear
Madam President.
Actually, yes, sir.
I have an adjustment to item 6. I'm wondering, I'd like to request the removal of item 8D from the consent agenda, please.
So if I can have a motion to remove.
Madam President, I'd like to make a motion to adjust the agenda by removing action or consent item 8D from the agenda.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Castillo. He's made a motion to remove item 8D from our agenda this evening. Superintendent Dempsey?
So recommend.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion passes.
With that
we'll
being
remove
said,
that.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept the agenda as modified.
Thank you. Mr. Castillo has made a motion to accept the agenda as modified. Superintendent Dempsey?
So recommend.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. And moving on to our regular school board meetings, minutes for February 23rd, 2023. Do I hear a motion?
Madam President, I make a motion that we accept the regular school board meetings for February 23rd, 2023.
Thank you, Mr. Cano. Mr. Cano has made a motion to accept item 7, our regular school board meetings as listed. Superintendent Dempsey?
So recommend.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Moving on to item 8, our consent agenda.
Madam President, I'd like to make a motion that we accept the consent agenda also as modified.
Thank you, Mr. Castillo has made a motion to accept the consent agenda as modified. Superintendent Dempsey?
So recommend.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Okay, moving on to open forum. Ms. Delgado, do we have any speakers this evening who would like to
Madam
address the board?
President, we have an open forum.
Okay, so we do have 3 individuals who would like to approach the podium. Before I do that, let me go ahead and read you our little statement that we do every time. So here we go. The board discourages personal attacks upon staff personnel or other persons in attendance or absent by individuals who address the board. Any person making public comments shall be solely responsible for the content of his or her comments. The board neither adopts nor assumes responsibility for any comments made by individuals during public comment. Presenters are cautioned that statements or representations concerning others that are false and damaging to a person's reputation may subject the presenter to a civil action for defamation. The board prohibits personal threats and the use of obscenity. Such speech is not protected and will not be permitted. The board further prohibits disruptive conduct. Disruptive conduct will not be tolerated. The board also offers formal channels for board consideration of concerns and complaints including involving individuals. Policies KE, KEB, KEC, and KED are provided by the board for disposition of such concerns and complaints. Okay, so I'd like to call first to the podium Jerry Theus, and this is regarding facility naming Gadsden High School football stadium. Good evening, sir. And just a
board
reminder,
members,
you have 5 minutes, and
I
if
mean,
you could,
thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak to you guys. I'm here to speak about the Gadsden Football Stadium renaming. I understand there's a proposal or an effort to rename the football stadium from Gadsden Panther Football Field to something different. So I'm here to advocate for the players as a team and hopefully keep what has been built by all players, throughout the decades to remain like it is, because any football team doesn't win by individuals, one individual, it wins as a team. So like I said, I'm advocating for those players that can't be here, that played on those teams, and that were successful or not successful. And to me, it was kind of unfair to change the name to just one individual, let alone what he did or didn't do. But my experience is that naming of football fields and stuff are mainly done for a person that has built the field, given the money to build it. There's professional players that have had football fields named for them, but they're professional players. They mostly quarterbacks who have led many, many teams. And also there's many coaches that have stadiums named after them based on years, you're talking decades of coaching and affecting students and athletes through a long period of time. I am proud to say that I'm a graduate of Gadsden. I played in the 1975 baseball team. We were champions in state that year and hasn't occurred since. So I would not feel comfortable with having my name on the stadium and not my team members. So, like I said, I'm advocating for the whole team that the stadium remains the way it is and not only apply the name to one person. So, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Tejas. Okay, moving on to Dolores Nañez, if you can come up to the podium. Go ahead, ma'am.
Oh, okay. President Flores, members of the board, Superintendent Dempsey, I'm here to say that, not to take anything away from Teacher of the Year, but we should all recognize all employees from top to bottom, bottom to top, left and right. Let's not forget that, you know, everybody goes to work to do a fantastic job for all the students, K through 12, to enjoy and be productive in the facilities that they attend. The other thing is, one of the things that are still happening is salaries. Hopefully with this legislation, we can align salaries to where people that have tenure, that have longevity, can see more of a raise in their pay. The insurance is still looking good. Hopefully it'll pass. It's a good thing that spring break is right around the corner. You know, I've got to say this. We got to be careful with, you know, what just happened in Las Cruces. You know, we don't want to be in that predicament, to lose a superintendent and who knows how many other people. So we got to be mindful of what we're doing. And one last thing, y'all have to pitch in and get Mr. Dempsey a new tie, because I think it's stained. I think it's stained and it's unprofessional, so thank you. That's all I have to say.
No, you cannot respond. Okay. Then I have one more person addressing, and this is Lydia Ramos. Trip to Florida? No. Okay. So that we don't have any more papers that were submitted? Okay. So that concludes open forum. Okay. Moving on to action items. 10A, board committee assignments. Monday? Superintendent Dempsey.
Madam President, board members, Mr. Snow, if you go to the next slide. This evening, we had a discussion item at our previous meeting about our committees and what we currently had. I had suggested at the time that we consolidate a few. Our equity council could fill a lot of roles. I suggested, I didn't get any feedback on that, so I went ahead and did that. That hyperlink will give you a list of, a summary of what each committee is tasked to accomplish. There are some, I will tell you, that we need to make sure that we work very hard to get scheduled and on our calendars so that we can ensure that they occur. That particular probably is finance, and as soon as we get the assigned members, we will begin to schedule those meetings and get started on them.
Okay. So I'm going to hand this to you, Ms. Arlene, since you're our secretary now. Let me see. Just bear with me. I failed to complete this. Let me see, audit, and we have finance. Okay, So in accordance with state law, the board must appoint 2 board members to the Finance Committee, 2 board members to the Audit Committee, and then 1 volunteer member who is a parent, this is the Audit Committee, 1 parent who is a parent, of a student attending the district to the Audit Committee, and 1 volunteer member who has experience in accounting or financial matters to the Audit Committee. So we will now proceed with nominations to these committees in a similar manner as the officers. But before we begin the nominations, as listed, we'll take care of first the Audit and Finance, and then we'll move to the other committees. Okay. And so we'll start with the Audit. Currently, our 2 board members that are in the Audit is myself and Mr. Daniel Castillo. And so what that entails is basically, and correct me, Mr. Castillo, or feel free to add, it's basically 2 meetings per year, correct? And it's the entrance audit meeting that occurs with Bobby Cordova and the CPAs in his organization. And then there's the exit. And so Ms. Ludim, our CFO, Chief Financial Officer, what she will do is she will always let you know in advance and sends out a calendar invite. Make sure that we're all available to meet with Mr. Cordova. We either meet in person, but now because of Zoom, Mr. Cordova is joining us through Zoom, and if in the event that you can't participate in person, there's Zoom available. And so basically, you're listening to the process of how the audit begins, and those that are present are 2 board members, the superintendent, Ms. Erica Villarreal, also Ms. Ludim, and then, of course, the volunteer member, the parent, and then the volunteer community member that has that background in finance and CPA. So really, does it take a whole lot of time? Honestly, no. Do you want to add anything else, Mr. Castillo?
No, ma'am, I think you covered it all.
Oh, there, okay, okay. Sure. So the summaries are there that were provided to you. So unless you have, so then that way we don't take more time. Unless you have any further questions, then we'll stick to that. I apologize for that. So at this time, I'll go ahead and we'll open the floor to accept nominations for 2 board members for the Finance Committee. And for the audit, sorry, I'll have to reverse that, audit. When nominating, you may name 2 board members. So you also, sorry.
Sorry, Madam President, my question is, do we have to nominate, or can we?
So we can definitely nominate, and yes, we can go ahead and take also volunteers, if you'd like to volunteer. And then if you are nominated, by all means, if, you can accept or decline the nomination. So the floor is open to nominate or to volunteer to sit on the Audit Committee.
Can we, Madam President, can we skip, or if we want to be a part of it, of one particular one, can we just go ahead and say it, or do we have to go one by one?
Yeah, so right now we're going to take care of the audit and finance, and then we can, that does not mean that you cannot sit on the Equity Student Health Advisory DCC if that's what you desire. But at this time, it's for the audit. So a nominee, you can nominate yourself, somebody can nominate somebody else, or you can volunteer.
Well, since everybody's rushing in, I don't mind. I don't mind staying on it. I don't mind staying on it. I'm just,
Okay, so Mr. Castillo is volunteering to stay on the Audit Committee. Does anybody else want to volunteer, or no? Doesn't look like it either. Okay, so I'd be more than happy to also stay in the audit. So I guess we're volunteering, and at this point, I mean, I guess the script is pointless at this point.
Madam President, board members, just remember,
Because-
you, as president, you have the authority to assign,
Yeah.
and so you really don't have to take
Yeah.
a vote at this point. You really are in a good place.
Okay, so then, there it is. Our two members will be myself and Mr. Castillo will just continue on the audit committee. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and move to the budget finance. So are there any volunteers or anybody who would like to nominate somebody else?
Madam President, I would like to continue with that one. Yes, I would like to continue.
Okay, so Ms. Claudia Rodriguez would like to continue being a member of the Finance Committee. I need somebody else.
Madam President, I would like to continue staying in the Budget and Finance Committee.
Okay, so then Ms. Rodriguez and Ms. Arlene will be our two board members who will represent us in the Finance Committee. Okay, so then now we're going to move to Equity Committee. There's the Student Health Advisory Committee, the DACC. Would you like to go in that order, colleagues, or like Ms. Rodriguez was saying, do you want to say where you would like to be a representative? Mr. Khan.
I'm going to try equity.
Okay.
I'm going to try equity and also stay with the Student Health Advisory Committee.
Okay.
Did we move athletics into all that, or is it still separate?
Madam President, board members, equity will encompass athletics as well as technology. I believe there's one more. I know those two. Bilingual. And we had a bilingual committee as well.
Okay, is there anybody else who would like to serve on that committee with Mr. Cano? Okay, so Mr. Cano wants to volunteer for Equity and the Student Health Advisory Committee. So, okay, and then let me go back to Equity. Anybody want to serve on that team? And I'm currently the one that serves by myself, so anybody else? Okay, if not, I'd like to continue serving, so that would be two of us, Equity. Okay, so Mr. Khan and myself will be on the Equity Committee. Moving on to Student Health Advisory Committee, so Mr. Kano would like to be a part of that committee. Is there somebody else who would like to be part of that one?
I would like to remain
Okay.
for that one as well.
Okay, so Mr. Cano and Ms. Rodriguez will be our committee members for that. And then, Manda? Okay, and then moving on finally to DACC, which is the Doña Ana Community College Advisory Board. Is there somebody who would want to volunteer or would like to remain?
Madam President, I believe I'm going to finish up the year, right? So, I mean, let me know.
Madam
But
President.
But that being said, what's the year, right? So just let me know when. I mean, I'm more than glad to give up the seat, but just let me know when I'm giving it up.
No, but the remainder of the year, December.
Okay.
Were you able to check on the Zoom situation?
Yes. So, good. So, with that being said, there's certain times of the year where we need a single board at the DACC meetings. And so Dr. Torres, what that means is she requests that there be not only 2, but 3 of us. And that's for when we're passing budget or other things that require the single board. And so, yes. So, thank you for being willing to serve as a third person. And so the answers, so there was a question was, can the third person join in through Zoom? The answer is yes, you can join through Zoom. If you prefer to go in person, when you can, you're more than welcome to join us in person. If not, through Zoom is fine because there's other individuals that join through Zoom. So with that being said, do we want to go ahead at this time and would you like to continue, Ms. Murillo, to be our third person? That way I don't have to be asking who wants to volunteer.
Yes.
Is that okay? Okay. Okay. So then, Manda.
Madam President, so with that being said, so that once it changes, if you want to, I have no problem volunteering to be that third person. So
Very nice. Okay. Perfect. So I'd like to continue on the DACC Advisory Board. Is there anybody else who is interested? Okay, so then the two primary ones will be Mr. Castillo and myself, and then our third member, when we need the single board, will be Mrs. Murillo. And I'll go ahead and let Dr. Torres know that she can count on Ms. Murillo for the rest of the year. That way, she knows to send you the email and not having to ask who's going to be the third person. And I'll let Marisa Iniguez, her administrative assistant, know. Okay? And I believe that's it. Superintendent Dempsey, would you like to add anything else?
No, Madam President, we appreciate everybody volunteering. I know this is a lot of extra time, and we appreciate it. And we'll work tomorrow to begin to get calendar invites out, and you should see those coming in your inbox in the next few days.
And then I was going to ask you if I don't have the website, but if any adjustments need to be made based on the outcomes of today to our web, how soon will the turnaround be to update?
Madam President, board members, probably we're going to need a few days to make
Okay.
that happen. But by the time we return from spring break, they should be updated.
Okay, very nice. Thank you. Moving on to,
Madam President, just as a point, it's an action item. Are we going to have to vote on this?
yes, we are. Okay. Yes, you're absolutely right, sir. Okay, so who would like to make a nominate? Oh my goodness, I went blank. Who would like to make a motion in order to accept the committee assignments that have been made this evening?
Madam President, I would like to make the motion that we accept the committee assignments as discussed.
Very nice. Mr. Castillo has made a motion to accept the board committee new assignments as discussed. Superintendent Dempsey,
So recommend.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Okay, moving on to action item 10B, policy BEDH and BEDHE, public participation at board meetings. Superintendent Dempsey.
Madam President, board members, we've discussed this multiple times and been able to kind of get through even some training on it. What you'll see before you tonight is our policy BEDH, which is unchanged. The exhibit is the portion that has changed, BEDH-E. Highlighted in front of you is what that change is that would be reflected on the forms that individuals complete when they request to participate in open forum. And with your approval, those would be updated and prepared for our next March 23rd regular board meeting. Questions?
So any further questions, comments, discussion needed regarding this policy?
Madam President, one piece that was added as a request from the board, disruptive conduct will not be tolerated. Any violation may result in the removal from the premises.
Nice. Any further questions, comments, concerns? Okay, so do I hear a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to accept action item 10B.
Mrs. Rodriguez has made a motion to accept item 10B. Superintendent Dempsey.
So recommend.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Moving on to action item 10C, JB Colquitt donation of 4 acres to Gadsden Independent School District. Superintendent Dempsey.
Madam President, board members, we've discussed that our sewage system at Yucca Heights is requiring an expansion. And after consulting with Mr. Colquitt regarding the possible purchase of up to 4 acres to expand that, he graciously has agreed to and offered to donate 4 acres to the district. I strongly recommend that we accept this gracious donation and stand for any questions.
Questions, comments, concerns? Okay, do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion that we accept action item 10C, J.B. Colquitt's donation of the 4 acres to Gadsden Independent School District.
Mr. Castillo has made a motion to accept action item 10C. Superintendent Dempsey.
So recommend.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Moving on to action item 10D, New Mexico School Board Association Student Achievement Awards. Superintendent Dempsey.
Okay, Madam President, board members, we've used a process previously, and annually what happens is we allow employees to submit nominations for teachers, staff, administrators, and community members. And then last year's recipients become the committee that reviews and then makes recommendations to you of who should be honored. I believe there are 2 support staff, a teacher, administrator, that's always included in that. NMSBA provides 1 award for each district. We purchase additional ones, and obviously we're prepared to do that. We do need to submit this tomorrow, so the deadline is tomorrow. In front of you, I believe each of you have a list. We try to keep a little bit of secrecy to it so that we can surprise those individuals. Do you not have a list? Okay. We have 2 members of support staff, a teacher and an administrator. And then what happened with this one, we really have 3 categories this go around. We have the individuals that went through that, 2 individuals who tonight is a perfect example, who have donated significant funding amounts to our district, and that's Mr. Colquitt and Mr. Pacheco. And just about every board meeting, there's a financial donation made in there, to one of our schools from them. And so I recommend those. And then we had a 3rd, which was nominated by one of our board members who is a coach at Santa Teresa High School. And so I would want the board to, I can pass that around and let you take a look at it and then ask for your approval.
Just to clarify, so the process was conducted as we have been in the past?
The
correct?
process for the top 4.
The top 4. So while my colleagues are watching that, so obviously another fellow board member made a nomination for a coach, I guess, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so because I had somebody, but I'm thinking maybe it's better to talk to you and the administrator, and maybe that individual could be recognized with maybe the high schools, I don't know. I mean, you don't have to make up a name, just the recognition, because I was wanting to nominate Christy Drake, and she is an instructional assistant at Chaparral High School. I ran into her, oh goodness, I forget where I ran into her, and I said, how are you doing? And she told me she was going to retire this year. And so maybe with that individual, it'd be probably more appropriate, because I want to, we have established I guess a procedure how to do that. I don't mind other nominations, but maybe we can work something where that individual be recognized at her campus for all the years of service, because she actually has been with Michaela, and I don't know the last name of this student. She is blind, but she's been with her whole career with Gadsden. What are your thoughts?
Madam President, board members, I recall you and I having this conversation, and I eventually kind of considered this individual, this student is just nothing short of amazing, but this individual has supported her all the way through this, and I'm hoping we'll continue to do that at graduation, which might be a terrific opportunity.
Yes, and then I was reflecting that this particular award, nothing short that Ms. Drake doesn't deserve, because even though she's helped that one individual, I was reflecting that these particular awards are for individuals that make, not that she doesn't, but make a difference to a bigger pool of individuals, and that's what came to mind, that she very well deserves that honor, but maybe not through this. So, okay, well, thank you.
Madam President, I have a question. On the first, it says we provide an opportunity for employees to submit recommendation or nominations. So how long is that done, and is it each individual campus? How is that, how do the rest of the staff members know that this is available?
Madam President, board members, that's emailed to every employee within the district. You even received that email as well.
Any further questions, comments, concerns? Mr. Castillo?
Madam President, with all due respect, I mean, if we have that board, that committee, right, that vetting committee, I mean, you just vetted your person. I mean, you just vetted them, and very deserving, from what you're saying, very deserving. But then we don't have a need for the committee, right? I mean, and again, I mean, from what you said, this person is deserving, they have my vote. But again, if we're gonna go through the process, are we gonna go through the process?
No, and that's why I guess maybe I didn't clarify myself, is I threw it out there because there was a conversation, but I'm realizing that this individual does in fact deserve some type of recognition, but I recognize this is not the appropriate platform to do it. I guess that's what I was trying to communicate. So, anything else?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. If there's no further discussion, do I hear a motion to accept the individuals that are on that list? And then when will you reveal those names before we vote? I guess, when will that happen?
Madam President, we'll definitely get to recognize them. The goal is to recognize them at a board meeting. Okay. So we would schedule a time, once we have the plaques in, schedule a time and invite them to a board meeting and get to present that to them.
Okay, so those names will not be released until they themselves know that they've been, I get it. Okay, okay, very nice. Okay, so with that being said, do I hear a motion?
Madam President, I'll make a motion that we accept the NMSBA Student Achievement Awards.
Mr. Cano has made a motion to accept action item 10D. Superintendent Dempsey?
So recommend.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Moving on to action item 10E, regular school board meeting dates. That threw me off. I was going to say, why does it say minutes? Regular school board meeting dates for our upcoming academic year, 2023-2024. Superintendent Dempsey.
Madam President, board members, at our last meeting, we approved the district calendar for the 23-24 school year. The next step of that is to add the board meetings to that calendar, and linked on that hyperlink are the list of board meetings for the next school year. And we'd like to ask your approval so that we could add those to the calendar.
Any questions, comments, concerns? I would just ask you, sir, would it be possible, I mean, it is possible, could you, I'm requesting if you could please send that to Dr. Torres. That way, when she creates the dates for the next academic year's DACC meetings, she sees Gadsden, and then when we see her, Danny, Mr. Castillo, remind me to suggest to Ms. Torres that the other fellow board members from the other districts do the same thing. That way we avoid having to move our meetings. And then I'll definitely ask her if she has a date for the next year's graduation ceremony. Okay.
Madam President, I think we're the only ones that have it on Thursday, no? I thought Cruces has it on different, I think we're the only ones that usually have conflicts.
Oh, okay.
I think. But
okay.
yeah, I'll remind you.
Okay, thank you. Ms.
Yeah,
Delgado?
Madam President, so if you notice on 4 o'clock, Tuesday, May 7th, I moved it to Tuesday because that Thursday, May 9th, is DACC commencement, and I verified with
for the next
her
year?
office.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ms. Delgado. Okay, thank you. Any further questions, comments, or concerns? Okay, so do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion that we accept action item 10E, the regular school board meeting dates for year 2023 and 2024.
Mr. Castillo has made a motion to accept item 10E. Superintendent Dempsey?
So recommend.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. And then moving on to our last action item, 10F, facility naming Gadsden High School Football Stadium. Superintendent Dempsey.
Madam President, board members, this is an action item listed this evening. Some of you will recall, well, actually, 2 of you, I think, will recall. This is a project that started 5 years ago, and we had individuals approach us about a naming facility, and we realized we didn't have a policy on it. We drafted a policy, went through a lot of work to that, and there are clear requirements within that policy that any individual to even be considered must meet. And that even because of those requirements, it postponed some of the conversations we could even begin to have. What we've done now at this point is our facility naming policy is attached. We've gone through the process to ensure that we have a facility naming committee. They've met, and they do have a recommendation for you. And then there is also a picture of a potential, what it would potentially look like at Gadsden High School. So Mr. Snowden, if you'll click on that second hyperlink, which is the stadium sign rendering. And as was requested of us 5 years ago, it would be the Sal Gonzalez Stadium. I stand for any questions.
Questions, comments, concerns?
Madam President, so I just basically, it meets all the requirements that are
Madam
stated in
President,
the
absolutely
policy.
does. And there is a caveat within the policy, if you'll recall, that a stadium would, once the board takes action, it's good for a 10-year period. After that, if that board at the time feels like there needs to be a change, that can happen. There's a lot of conversation around that. We obviously, our goal here is to honor individuals that have spent time in our communities and all our teams. I don't think there's any goal here to do anything but that. But at times, sometimes there's change, and it's impossible to tell what the future holds for a future board or administration. So again, I strongly recommend that the board approve this.
And thank you for mentioning that, because I was about to ask you that caveat, that it's good for 10 years. Because, I mean, in 10 years, who knows if any of us will be here in this board. And so, that's up to those future board members.
Madam President, I'll also mention there's no cost to the district whatsoever to this.
Okay.
Right, wrong, or indifferent, I still think about that. But, you know, his accomplishments, those articles that they brought, what they came and they presented, he's earned every right to at least be up there for the minimum of those 10 years. Again, you know, I'm a team player, and I understand, Mr. Diaz, I know where you're coming from, but he did do great things. He did do great things, you know, to the point that he could have done greater things, yet he remained here. So, you know, that's my take.
No, thank you, Mr. Castillo, for sharing that, definitely. And the reason I bring this is because I don't want the public to think we did get articles, and we have certificates, and I remember the presentation. Maybe not all the details, but I just want the public to know that, you know, there's two of us who were definitely presented the life of this individual 5 years ago, and then do know that articles have been, are available and should have been read by our fellow board members to make a sound decision. I just wanted, so that the public doesn't think we're just making a crazy decision just like that without knowing who this individual was. But I was going to ask if somebody was going to make a formal presentation, but anything else? Any other questions?
Madam
Mr.
President,
Castillo?
one more thing. Again, you know, this was started a long time ago, and I mean, I don't want to say we ran into roadblocks, but I mean, the reason it's taken us this long is because we wanted to do it right. Otherwise, you know, it probably could have been done right there and then, but they wanted to do it right. You know, they didn't want just, hey, you want, name it. You know, they went through the process. You know, they waited at, you know, as long as, even the few years that you've guys, the younger ones that, you know, been here on the boards run slowly, you know, and you know, to attest, you know, 5 years from when they started, and, you know, they've kept on, you know, they kept on with it. We have the committee. We did our due diligence on our side. We have the recommendation. Again, you know, we can let them speak, but you know what they're going to say. You know, we'd be remiss. Again, you know, with that being said, I mean, if there's no further comments, you know where I'm going. So,
I do have a comment, Madam President. I was not part of the board, but I recall, actually, I was sitting on that end, and I remember the presentation, and I guess I have to agree with what Mr. Castillo is saying. And for whoever, you know, if there's someone that doesn't know who he was, definitely there's that hyperlink where you can see all of this information. And I agree the fact that they waited, and this policy was created, and they followed everything that this policy is stating. You know, we cannot go against that, right? Because, well, in my eyes, right, it's following what policy states. Had it been something different, then we probably would have to postpone it or, you know, do something different. But at this point, everything has been followed the way it is expected to, and so I think more important is look at what the information that's there. And this is not something that is just, you know, privy to one person. You know, in 10 years, as policy states, someone else can approach. And so at this point, I think that we need to follow policy and not go against it, and having that committee honoring what they are presenting to us, and for us to be able to take action on it.
And thank you once again, Mr. Castillo and Ms. Rodriguez. Very well said. So, and I agree with your statements. Anybody else? No? Ms. Maria?
I make a motion that we approve action item 10F, facility name changing Gadsden High School football stadium to
Sal Gonzalez.
Sal Gonzalez.
Superintendent Dempsey?
So recommend.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. So now Panther Stadium is called Sal Gonzalez Stadium. Thank you, the Gonzalez family, for joining us this evening. Okay, moving on to discussion items. 11A, strategic plan, our quarterly update report, part 2. Superintendent Dempsey.
Madam President, board members, we'll try to get this pretty quickly. There's a lot of information here. If you didn't have time to read it, because it was a lot, there's hyperlinks there. You can ask us details. We'd love to answer those questions. This is where, as our leadership team, I can't describe it any other way, we totally nerd out here. and we love this stuff. We can do it all day long. But we're going to talk tonight about, this is part 2, goals 2 and 5. So, Mr. Snowdy, if you go to the next slide. Okay, goal 2, this is to provide equitable opportunities for every child. Next slide, please. And you'll see a list here with all that information. And like I said, tremendous amount of information, but I'm going to try to summarize this as best I can, okay? This includes critical professional development opportunities for staff, such as letters and the implementation of New Mexico Public Education Department structured literacy that's lays out in a strategic manner to ensure all staff have multiple opportunities to participate. Focused efforts on at-risk populations such as ELs, SPED, and attempting to address students who are identified as having chronic absenteeism. We continue to seek opportunities to expand dual language options and provide much-needed social emotional supports for our students. And like I mentioned, Mr. Stoney, you can go to the next slide. We consider this in progress, and then other items are completed and monitoring. So you can, like I said, there's hyperlinks and information to each one of those. There's a tremendous amount of information. Truly to cover this would take a work session to do so, but we're always open to emailing us, and we would, again, love to answer those questions. Next slide, please. Goal 5 is to provide safe and secure schools. Next slide, please. Included is strengthening current relationships with providers at our student-based health centers, as well as expanding services to our pre-K centers, which include behavioral health as well as traditional medical services. Increase the communication between counselors, social workers, and nursing staff to ensure students are provided the very best we have to offer. Improve campus security by increasing training opportunities, ensuring emergency drills are completed, and recruiting and retaining qualified staff. Physical plant and technology are working to ensure layers of security are established, constant monitoring of exterior doors, staff members are trained on the latest and best practices, and general systems are functioning properly to provide a safe and comfortable school environment. Again, you can see those components. We count this particular one as in progress. And at the bottom, you can see a detailed information according to each of those. Next slide, please. This is the continuation of that. Again, you'll see emergency drills, upgrading intrusion alarm systems, lockdowns, all those practices and training protocols that we continue to work on. You'll see references to the facility master plan and ways to improve our campus environments. Next slide, please. These are the ones that are considered completed in monitoring, and again, you have a list of those. And those include recruiting the correct staff, the communication plan between our nurse, counselor, and social workers. That's a unique requirement, because you never know who a student's going to go talk to. And they have to be working in alignment with each other. And that's an area we know we need to continue to always pay attention to. And then there's information there about security and, again, emergency response drills. Next slide, please. Any questions or concerns associated with strategic plan 2 and 5, or strategic goal 2 and 5?
Madam President.
Mrs. Murillo.
Just a comment. It's that we're doing great, and one of the things that I'm seeing is thank God for social media, because when you tell us, where we're improving, we're also seeing it in social media, especially with Sunland Park Police Department, showing pictures of the drills and emergency plan, and it's nice to see how I recognize certain names. They said, hey, this is part of the strategic plan, so it's really nice to not just hearing it, but also seeing it. So thank you for that.
Thank you for that input.
Madam President.
Go ahead, ma'am.
Yes, I actually was going to say the same thing because thank you for all the work that you put into it. And you know, I think that was the main goal, right? When upon making this strategic plan, it wasn't going to be just one person or one group. It was the whole community, the communities, you know, for that matter. So I think that being able to see where the progress is and what things have been accomplished, it's extremely critical for the community to know that Gadsden is working. And, you know, it's not just, oh, we said that this was going to happen. And so getting the feedback and input and information of where it's standing currently is greatly appreciated, and definitely collaborating with the different organizations, or as Ms. Murillo stated, you know, like the police department. Those are extremely powerful things that are truly happening. So thank you for that, everyone that has been working so hard and nerding out.
Madam President, and I have to emphasize, I know many times, you know, I'm presenting, but this is the result of an entire leadership team and an entire staff that puts their effort and work into that on a daily basis. So I'm just a member of that team and very proud member of it.
Thank you, sir. Okay, moving on to discussion item 10B, monthly budget report for the month ending January 31st, 2023. Superintendent Dempsey.
Madam President, board members, Ms. Villarreal, and maybe Ms. Erica's going to do this one. Yolanda's going to set this one out, right? Smart lady.
Good evening, President Salazar Flores, Superintendent Dempsey, and board members. I bring forth the January 31st, 2023 monthly budget report. Our operational fund revenues as of January 31st were $84.6 million, which represent 58.81% of our budgeted revenues. Our operational fund expenditures as of January 31st, 2023 were $72.7, which represent 37.84% of our budgeted expenditures. As of January 31st, 2023, the Public Education Department and other grant fund agencies owed the district approximately $17.4 million for current year grant expenditures, $1.9 million for student nutrition. Our direct instruction expenditures plus encumbrances for the operational fund as of January 31st were $88.1 million, or 63.97% of the total operational fund expenditures. Our pledge collateral was in compliance as of January 31st. And on the next page, for the month of January, we had no findings. We did select one elementary, actually 3 elementaries were selected in this internal audit that we did in one department, and there were no findings. I did want to point out, if you scroll on to Exhibit A, as of January 31st, we had $19 million in outstanding RFRs. So many owed to the district.
Madam President, board members, the piece I would add there, I want us to all process this. That is $19 million of cash balance. If we didn't have $19 million of cash balance, we would not be able to expend those funds.
Any questions, comments, concerns for Ms. Villarreal? Thank you, ma'am. Good evening.
Thank you.
Okay. Moving on to, let's see, upcoming board meetings and events. Superintendent Dempsey.
Madam President, just a list here of events, and I hope I've included them all. Our next regular board meeting is March 23rd. That's right after spring break. So we're going to have a little break, and then we're going to come right back. That meeting is at Desert Pride Academy, and I mentioned some of the items that you might get to see in that next meeting. National School Board Association Conference, April 1st to the 3rd in Orlando, Florida. If you got confused on any reservations or anything of that nature, be sure that you've had a conversation with Ms. Delgado, okay? Spring budget is coming up very quickly, April 11th through the 13th. I don't think any board members had planned on attending this go-around.
I was going to ask you what's like the latest that whoever would be interested in attending can let you know, like now?
I think it's closed.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, Madam President, New Mexico ASBO is very strict about their deadlines. They're one of the few that is, once that closes, I'll find out if it is open, I'll get you a deadline, but I think it's going to, if you decide, we need to know really quickly, okay?
Okay.
Then we have the NMSB Region 7 meeting on April 18th in Las Cruces, and then, of course, the NMSBA Law Conference coming up the first week of June.
Okay. Thank you. And then now we move on to closed session. Do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion that we go into closed session, personnel session pursuant to 10-15-1, H-2, NMSA 1978, as amended for superintendent and associate superintendent's report on recent personnel action and issues, employees on administrative leave with pay, employee grievances, and employee issues.
Mr. Castillo has made a motion that we enter into closed session. Superintendent Dempsey.
So recommend.
Ms. Delgado, can you please take roll call?
Mr. Cano?
Aye.
Mr. Castillo?
Aye.
Ms. Flores?
Aye.
Ms. Murillo? Aye. Ms. Rodriguez?
Aye.
The vote is unanimous. We are now in closed session. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Have a safe trip home.